Hey guys, we are going to be walking through the new components called Analytics Notification API. Um, all this component does is allows you to go ahead and um, from Flow call the Analytics Notification and see what reports are subscribed to, who's subscribed to those reports, and then be able to um, either remove or the entire notification or remove certain people off that notification. So this video is going to walk through like the visual aspects of it, and then also we will walk through the flow. My flow has some debug screens, which is one of them that you're seeing here. This isn't necessarily a screen that you're going to be able to, or you want others to actually see. It's only for demonstrations and debugging purposes. It's great to see what the responses are. So without further ado, let's jump on in. So this first screen is because we've already made one API call out. This is the notification response that we get. So in here it would be every single report, all the recipients, and all the different configurations of the reports. Um, this demo is only doing reports, but this API could also do the analytics notifications and the dashboard subscriptions also. So this is not just for report subscriptions, but it's also for dashboard subscriptions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next, which is going to use the unofficial data table component because this is all running off of Apex defined classes. So that is the only data table out there as of today that you can use it. Hopefully, eventually, the beta table that comes out of box with Salesforce can use Apex defined classes later on. But this right now is just showing the record ID, the report name, whether it's active, how many people are assigned to it, their frequency, the time of day, and the days of week. The report name does not come out of the actual API. That is something that is done through the Apex class that says, hey, I have the report ID, go grab the name. That way, then visually, when you're looking at this, you can see exactly what the report is. So I'm going to go and click on this one here. I have a very small database. If there was more recipients, it'd be a little easier to show some demos here, but I digress. We're going to go ahead and click on view recipients. It's going to make another API call out to actually it doesn't make another, sorry. So from the notifications to when you view the recipients, it does go into an Apex defined class or action where it then parses out the recipients based on that class from the data table. So this is just a screen that shows what data comes out from that. And if we click next, we now get the same unofficial data table, but with the radio button selector. That is key. All of these are radio buttons because you can only select one record at a time. So I want to go ahead and choose this one. And I want to say delete selected subscriptions. I do want to recant a little bit is if there was two people on this report, you would get checkboxes, not radio buttons, because you could either remove one person or you could remove all users. If you remove all users, it actually just deletes the subscription. If you remove one user or multiple, but if you leave at least one user on there, it just does a update statement to via the API to that subscription, essentially removing those users and leaving that one user on that report. So I'm going to go ahead and click on delete. And then it's going to go ahead and in this flow instance, I just have it end and then restart the flow. So now if I click on next and look at the data table, there's only now one report left. So let's go in and let's look at this screen flow that I've created. I won't spend too much time on some of the data table configurations. I will throw it up on the screen. So if you want to pause, you can pause and see how I have everything set up. But we will go with the columns that we set for this first data table. Again, all of this can be utilized out of the Apex class. You can look at that information. It all comes from the Analytics Notification List API, which is linked into the documentation. So when I am pulling in record ID active and things like that, that is all coming from the definition class. There are a few differences, like report name is definitely a field that I added in just so that it makes life easier, but all the rest of these fields come right out of that response. So there's that screen. This is the actual API call to get all the different notifications. This is literally from what you could do from the get statement for the parameters. You got source, you got owner ID, and you got record ID. All this will be posted in the actual documentation as well. But you would pretty much put your source. If you wanted to go for a specific owner, you can add that. Or if you wanted a specific report, you can throw that. The source is always required. None of the other fields are required. And you have to use one of the 3 different words out of the API documentation. So that's pretty much all this one does. It returns a couple different Apex defined classes, which we will see in the next screen here. So this is the debug screen. All I'm doing is throwing out the definition string. The definition string is just a stringified version of the JSON array and the Apex class that comes back from the subscription data response. We do return the actual Apex class as well if you want that. And then we also pass through a definitions detail class. That class is the class that has the report name and things like that. That's out of the normal spec of the Apex class that we would normally have. So the definition detail class is the class that I ended up using for the next data table. So we'll look at set definition. I'm not sure exactly where I use this, but there's an Apex defined class. Again, all of these are available, so you can create a new variable and then use the definitions or recipients or configurations Apex classes and assign certain data. So it looks like this one just assigns from that response, the definition Apex class to a definitions Apex class. Again, this just then allows you with inside this flow to get to the details of what that definition was. I'm not sure if I was using that here, but we'll go into the first data table here. Again, this data table is the data table from Unofficial. So in the record string, we are using the definition details underscore string. This is specific to the subscription data class or action. We automatically always will spit out a string variation just in case you want to use it for the data table. If we gave you the Apex class, you wouldn't be able to use this, so we gave you the string here. Name, I just named it notifications. Nothing special in the table behavior, but in the advanced, we check the box. We added in the column fields, which I showed you before, and then nothing else is set in these fields. And then in our key fields, we added record ID because that is one of the fields that we are passing in so that we could use that on the selection. There is nothing on the advanced. We're not assigning any variables on the way out. And then we set the columns for the recipients. We just want the ID, the display name, and the type. And if you go look at the recipients over here, see if I can find them. It's literally using this entire class, ID, display name, and type. Those are the only fields that you have available to display in this next screen. So those are the 3 fields. You should be able to figure out everybody's information based on this type or these fields. If not, please leave a comment and we'll see about trying to get that added. I won't go in this debug screen. All it is outputting from the data table what the information was. It's a great source if you want to see how that data structure is laid out. And then we go into the get recipients. So this action just takes what comes from that data table, the output selected row string, and then we'll parse that string into several different output variables. So I'm just going to go jump into an Apex class in here. So if I go look at get recipients, so it returns the definition class, which is just bringing it down so that way you always have it with you. It's going to be the same definition class as the first response, but it also parses out the notification ID, parses out the Apex version of the recipients, and it also parses out a recipient string, which is what we're going to use in this data table show recipients. So this show recipients again uses the unofficial data table, which gets the recipients and then recipient string. We don't do anything too special here. We have an input data is Apex. We then put in our column fields, which are just those 3 fields. And then the key ID field is ID. So we show that information. Again, this one was the multi-select. So this was unchecked because you could select more than one user. We can handle for that. And then we set the notification ID on a text variable, and that just gets it from the recipients. And then we go into delete recipients. So we are passing in the definition that we got from the get recipients, hence why I returned it out of that class or action. We put in what rows were selected as the string from that recipient's data table. We pass in that notification ID, and then we pass in all of the recipients. So in the code, what it does is it grabs the recipients and grabs the deleted and gets the difference of them. So if they match exactly, it'll delete the subscription, but if there's a difference, it'll keep whatever's in recipients that is not in deleted. So it does a unique list. That is why I needed both lists to come in so I know which ones to keep and which ones to delete. But otherwise, that's the kind of the information and details of the flow. What I would probably recommend if you were implementing this in your org is wouldn't even put the debug screens, which there's 2 of them. It just makes it a little bit cleaner. Then you can easily go through these very quickly. But yeah, that's all I have for you on this video. Thank you for watching. And again, if you have any feedback, any issues, please leave them down below.